when you know who you are and you know what you're on, so much more possibilities open up. One thing you have to really be careful about is if you give too much power to Spotify or to Instagram or to whoever else, they'll just take that and you become dependent on it. His mission is business. It's not about message, music, culture, nothing. The bottom line, the profit and the power is all that's important. Bro, substance is one of the key words for me. This music thing might have been more lucrative, you know, them ones, but I didn't want to compromise what I'm saying. All those thousands of people murdered in Palestine, we won't know all of their names. We won't know them. All those people in the Congo since 1996 have been murdered so that we can have these iPhones in the world. Do you know what I mean? We won't know who they are.
All right, guys, what's going on? So today I'm here and I'm talking to the legend that is Apex Zero. We're not going to be doing a full-on interview. We're going to get him into the studio to do a proper interview at some stage. But for now, I really want to find out about the theatre play that he's got going on. So, Apex, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the play? What's going on, how long it's been going and everything?
I appreciate you having me here, brother. When a legend's calling you a legend, you know what I mean? That means something. So, yeah, as you said, my name is Apex Zero, and the project he's talking about is Drummer Warrior Storyteller. It's a living album that I've been working on for about 6-7 years now. Started off as a couple of EPs that I was working on. I got the beats from Michael Parkinson, big up Parky all day. Every day. And started like that, and so got the beats, got some brilliant artists into the studio, people like RU1 Fam, Logic's on there, Asata Sheriff. So we got some real fire on there. But as the thing was growing and building, it just felt like it needed more. Started working on the visuals, managed to get in touch with an incredible creative producer called Steph B, who then pushed me to be able to think more deeply about what I'm doing. And so connected it with certain ideas that I'm into. Blade knows, I make films as well, I make music videos. Big up Global Faction, who brought me into their team. And so to bring in these different aspects of what I do, started making films. And so through getting funding for the films, I work with a lot of different artists. I've got a lot of friends who are different types of artists. And so it's brought in Akua McMorris, who was one of the cinematographers, who's an incredible portrait photographer. So she came in and was the first kind of visual artist who got involved and started taking photographs. And we just kept growing from there. So painting, metalwork, all different types of mediums started getting involved. And we were like, you know what, this is more than the music and film now. This is an art installation. Do you know what I mean? So installed it first at the Hackney Social, and then we built up to doing a immersive theatre show at Rich Mix in 2022. And so as this thing's been getting bigger and growing and all these different elements are coming in, we've now got to a point where we're going to be headlining at Earth on October 6th. So big up the people at Earth for bringing us in. Big up the whole team down there has been really kind and really helpful. Got an incredible set of dancers, visual and sonic artists who are getting involved. And as always with the project, just ridiculously talented drummers and musicians who are all from all across the diaspora, African and Caribbean diaspora. And we're really there to sort of tell our history and tell the stories of our people, and bun the fire in the way we need to do it, you know what I mean? So it's been a journey and it's ongoing. The project is building and growing its own life form, you know what I mean? And so it's a real honor for me to be able to be in a position to have these skills and to have all these collaborators to be able to bring this thing to life and keep feeding it to sustain that life force, you know what I'm saying?
How me and you met was you came and did a video for when I was managing the group, 521.
Yeah.
Then we got to talk about the things that you were doing. And then you started telling me about this project from many years ago. We're going back 5 years that I know.
Yeah.
How long before that was the project being kind of manifested?
I think it was 2017 was when I first got in the studio. Maybe 2018, somewhere around that point, 2017, 2018. I just finished the run for my EP, All and Nothing. And I'd met Parky before that, but I was on his radio show that he did on Pyro. And I was just like, bro, I need to get some beats off you. I mean, that's when he was putting out him and Cakes was doing a lot of work them times, you know what I mean? So it was around that time. So I think when I first got in the studio with my brother, Al Lawson, who's done a lot of the engineering, most of the engineering on it, it was around that time. And so I'm like, well, how long is that? That's 27. You're talking about, so maybe the idea was maybe 8 years ago. Do you know what I mean? 7, 8 years ago. But at the same time as well, bro, like, I feel like my whole life has led up to this. You know what I mean? It's been all of the training, all of the skills, all the things I had to go through, all of the battles I've fought through life. Do you know what I mean? All of the successes and the travel and soaking up different cultures and traveling to Africa, going back to the heritage and the roots and learning about who I am. Do you know what I mean? Is really the core of this thing. And I'm still learning. I'm still, as the project grows and as everything moves forward, you know, the drumming especially, it wasn't originally called Drummer Warrior Storyteller. You know, I got that from Chinua Achebe's work and saw him say that in an interview and was like, rah, that's who I feel like I'm trying to be. That's who I feel like I've been becoming all of my life, you know. He says that the drummer calls forth the people, the warrior fights the war, and the storyteller creates history, giving the survivors meaning. Otherwise, their survival would have no meaning. And when I heard him say those words, I was like, nah, those three characters are who I've been trying to be and connect them all. Do you know what I mean? The music and the style I do, the content of my work is about bringing people together to fight the war. You know, I've been out on the roads of the activism thing. I've been in a lot of organizations that are about creating positive change for our people, fighting the power. And then, you know, I for a long time, I didn't consider myself to be like a storyteller MC, you know, like the Slick Ricks and the Raekwons and the Outcasts who are, you know, they pride themselves on that, do you know what I mean? And then from having to really reflect on what I do, I was like, nah, this is storytelling, do you know what I mean? How it might be more abstract than that, but that's what it is. And so kind of becoming comfortable with balancing those three roles within myself, I just embraced it. And I think there's a power in when you know who you are and you know what you're on, so much more possibilities open up. Do you know what I mean? There's, you know, I think I'm also the kind of person where I've matured a lot. When I was younger, I kind of wanted to be this kind of artist, but you have to have gone through some things to be able to come out the other side and still be on what you're on and develop and grow, you know, and evolve. So this project, more than just trying to become a better MC or a better musician, it's pushed me to become a better artist, a more rounded artist. And I think all that makes me a better drummer, a better warrior, and a better storyteller, you know. And so as the thing grows, I'm connecting with more people, you know, incredible artists and all these different mediums, and the stuff that they do, they're doing things I could never do, you know. Roxanne Simone, for example, the metal worker, the skill she has over the craft of metal is just phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? Like the dancers, the way that they can move their bodies. Like I'm past the age where I'm going to be able to do them things. Do you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, it just feels like a real honor and a privilege, and the ancestors and the Most High are guiding I and I towards doing this work, you know.
Who was funding all of that? How was that all? I mean, did you have any sponsors in place? Was there anybody helping? Was it all you?
Well, in terms of the travel, that's my thing. That's my passion. Do you know what I mean? Like when I wanted to leave this country from when I was maybe 15, 16, I was ready to just go. Do you know what I mean? And couldn't, need money to do them things. You know what I mean? You need to find the means, you know. And so for me, I've turned down certain opportunities. I've put myself into certain situations where this music thing might have been more lucrative, do you know, them ones, but I didn't want to compromise what I'm saying. I wasn't willing to stop doing what I'm trying to achieve, do you know what I mean? For money, you know what I mean? Or more than money, to give control over what I'm saying to somebody else. And I know a lot of us have had to like make that choice or go down a certain path. And those ones who can enter the, you know, what you might call like the industry proper and still navigate that, it's commendable and amazing to see those people who can do that. It's not something I was willing to do, do you know what I mean? And so for me, I've always had to hustle and find other ways to make dough. And for a long time, I thought of it as my art being pure, and anything I do for money, I'll do for money. Do you know what I mean? And then kind of got to the point where I started teaching English as a second language. Do you know what I mean? So that was one extra thing, because I thought that would be something I could travel with, and it was. So managed to start teaching at university level, because I've been to university. I've got a master's degree, so could teach that in universities, and managed to get a job at the best university in China. So went out there, but the thing about that kind of moment in my life, I went out there to teach at a university, but ended up really doing the music thing full time. Do you know what I mean? Because the amount of opportunities that just opened up for me in Asia were crazy, bro. Like big up all the people, Jackson Turner, my brother, R.I.P., General Huge, MC Weber, Dungeon Beijing, the things, when the Syndicate, these people who were already doing their thing out there, heard what I was doing, felt what I was doing, and was like, yo, let's do this. Took me on tour all over China, Japan, and you know, I still had this day job, which was a good day job. It was something I enjoyed doing, to connect with these like, genius Chinese students, hungry Chinese students who also were like desperate to learn about hip hop culture and you know, music culture and art in London. You know what I mean? This like melting pot of students, of foreigners, of Chinese people who were just really into this thing. The amount of opportunities there were to just do this, and I'm playing like festivals to thousands of people, bro. Do you know, them ones like without, you know, not trying to be arrogant about it, without even really trying, bro. Do you know, them ones that I turn up there, people are just like, you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I do, let's go. Do you know what I mean? Compared to when I'm in England being like, nah, everything, you know, everything's hard. I'm trying to battle and find your way to get into things, or turning things down, or offering me to do this because I think it's, you know, this is Babylon trying to take over my thing. Do you know, them ones, yeah? And so kind of having that willingness to open up and try new things was huge for me. Do you know what I mean? And then through that process, you know, linking up with EO Dub took me all over the world, to Uganda, went out there with Snuff and Amy, People's Army fam as well, do you know what I'm saying? Logic, we got Logical Day. But yeah, EO Dubs took me all over the world, and the more I see and learn that opening up to new possibilities creates opportunities, do you know what I mean? I was just like, right, this is what I've got to stay on when I get back. So I come back and I was like, well, how am I going to get on this thing? And again, for a long time, I wasn't one to apply for funding for things, because for me, I was like, if I'm going to be criticizing the government and the system over here, how am I going to take their money to talk about them? Do you know, them ones, there's like a contradiction there. But then someone just put it to me one time and was just like, yo, that's our money, right? If we're giving tax money up to these people, do you know what I mean? Like the lottery funding, for example, my parents have played the lottery since that started. That's thousands of pounds that rich people don't play the lottery, poor people play the lottery. Do you know, them ones like, and so if our money is going into these pots, our tax money and our lottery money, you apply for that funding, you're taking that back. Do you know what I mean? So I applied for the Arts Council funding, managed to get the first project fund for the films, for the first set of films, and then got double that amount for the first theatre show. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the opportunity that opens up to be able to pump funding into the community, that was a real eye-opener for me. Do you know what I mean? To take this money, and I didn't make huge amounts of money off this myself, but what I did with that money was feed the community. Do you know what I mean? This was during COVID times when some of the people we had, these are professionals, you know, professional dancers, professional musicians who, you know, you remember what it was like them times, and there was, you know, there was no live music, there was no live dance, there was no nothing, so people wanted these kind of support funds, and what I was able to do was give them a paid job for the first time in months. Do you know what I mean? And so like that felt great. And I think also people respect the fact that that's how I'm coming to them. I ain't coming to them with this, you know, 30 grand of funding and being like, yeah, so I'm gonna pay you a tenner and try and stack all this money myself. Do you know what I mean? And so my reputation for doing things right is kind of enhanced, you know? And so it's like, you know, finding ways to do that has become part of the practice. Do you know what I mean? Of like, you know, now I know what can be achieved by putting yourself into positions to be like, right, we'll take that and we'll do this with it. It's kind of the flex, do you know what I mean? And so far for this set of things, we managed to get some money from the RCA. I teach at the RCA as well. And so being able to apply for research funds, they gave us something towards that for the research and development, and then have been applying for other stuff. But you know, at the moment, at this point, we've got a lot of great partners. It's not always financial as well. I think that's an important thing. People, you know, my brother Fusion from BMT has been massive in this. My sis Rishma at Media Hive, they've been massive in sort of working. They just believe in what I'm doing. They believe in what the message of the thing is and want to see it get pushed out. And so all the, you know, John Z D at Breaking Convention is always coming to me with help. He's been like a huge help with this all the way through. And everyone involved has their own different organizations. Pench Me, Coraleco Band, you know, all the movement directors have their own companies. Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's properly like, it's a community of communities. Do you know what I mean? That come together to make this thing happen, and what you can achieve. You know, we've spoken about this before, brother. Like, you know, things can be so fractured in certain scenes, and so little is achieved when we're seeing ourselves in competition. Where if all these people come together, things can be huge.
Without going into conspiracy theories, right? Because we all love a conspiracy theory.
Yes, we do.
What I find interesting is that there's a number of things. For example, we're told social media. But it's the one place that makes everyone unsociable. Right? That's one thing. The next thing is we're told there's a pandemic and the world is on lockdown and this and that. And then the real people, what they didn't count for or account for was that the real people were going to come together stronger. The strong don't care, they just carry on. And you're one of those people. And you're surrounded by, you mentioned Fusion, you mentioned John ZD, you mentioned a whole bunch of other people. But you strike me as one of these people that's obviously a doer. How difficult was it for you to get this off the ground? How many, I mean, it must have taken time for you to be able to convince people like, yo, I'm doing something and believe in it.
Yeah, it's work, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard work. And what you say about, you know, the being a doer and having these people around me, and it's a thing for me where I have those people around me because I'm a fan of a lot of them first. Do you know them ones? Like, it's not like I just bump into these people or they come to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been doing what I've been doing before the word cancelled existed. Do you know them ones? Like, so I've been talking about what I've been talking about since I was 15, 16 years old. Now I owe that to the elders around me and to the, you know, the forebearers who come before me, who, when I hear their music or I see their art, I'm like, that's the kind of thing I want to tap into. Do you know what I mean? And so all my influences, these are people who are, you know, independent. Even if those who aren't independent, they move in a way where, you know, like ODB running up on stages saying, you know, Wu-Tang is for the children, bro. Do you know what I mean? These are the inspirations. You know, Immortal Technique, was it the most pirated Revolutionary Volume 1, the most pirated mixtape album of all time? Do you know what I mean? Like, and he still managed to make a career of himself. That's his advertising, you know, them ones. And like, so you say with the social media and stuff, bro, they're not letting me do sponsored posts right now. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, and it's like, okay, cool. We find a way around this. Do you know what I mean? And we've been finding ways around these things since birth. You know what I mean? Like the idea of when you grow up in the way we grow up, everything ain't just handed to you. You know what I mean? So you have to. Well, I made most of my music on my early music, learning to make beats on a second-hand computer in my mum's yard. That I couldn't even use samples on Fruity Loops because the computer was too slow. So I had to learn to play the things in bit by bit.
Was the computer too slow, or was the government involved in it?
The computer was too slow.
I reckon the government put a chip in there to fuck things up for you.
Maybe. But yeah, it's things like that, you know. So you have to, you know, you have to. You said that resilience. You learn that through coming up this way. Do you know what I mean? Through the independence, right? And so like, when it gets to the point now where I'm faced with a situation where I need to get this thing off the ground. I think a lot of the time it wasn't about convincing people. It was showing them the clarity of the vision. Do you know what I mean? And
how long did it take you to get to that clarity? Because, you know, I'm a creative, right? And I've got loads of ideas in my head that I understand. But when I show it to people, they don't get it. And then you have to kind of revise until eventually they get it.
Yeah, it's a process, brother. And I think for me, it's like, it hasn't always been easy. I think with the first film, I think it was very difficult for some people who worked on that. You know what I mean? If you're a professional filmmaker, a lot of these, you know, some of the filmmakers on that do a lot of high level stuff, right? And then here's me coming in with no training as a filmmaker. I'm self-taught. And I'm like, and I'm also trying to come up with this way where I don't want to be this, you know, puppet master director where I'm saying everyone do what, you're my puppets and I'm making you play my vision. No, what I came with this thing was, we're trying to do something different, and we're trying to do something where the process of making it is true to the message of what we're making, right? So I'm saying, I'm one of the writers in this, but who else is writing this with me? So the dancers are writing this with me, the filmmakers are writing this with me to the level that they want to, right? If they've got an idea, I'm not gonna be like, no, just be quiet, we're doing it my way. It was like, well, how, and I'm actively asking, how should we do this? So it's not just about me telling my life story. I want to be able to tell the story of the community, do you know what I mean? And so it started, even one of the earliest things we did was interview a lot of my friends and family who I know have been through certain things, who view the world in a certain way, because I know people like that don't normally get included in things. If we're coming with a more militant vision, I need to talk to the militants, right? If we're talking about police brutality, I need to speak to people I know have been attacked by police, do you know them ones? And one of the things that was really interesting about that process, I come with all these ideas about what's law and what's justice and how can we fight for these things. And a lot of people were like, yo, I don't really want to talk about that too tough. What it is for me to be black or working class or, you know, from the ends is about all the beauty and all the love and all the joy I've experienced in life. And that was really an eye-opener for me. And that's why part 2 is about that. Part 1 is about the violence and having to overcome those things. But part 2 became all about about joy and love and celebration of family. Do you know them ones? And so finding these stories, if I was just like, no, I want to do this, it's closed. Whereas I'm like, yo, how are we gonna create this thing? How are I and I gonna create this thing? The I becomes.
So in some ways, I feel like you're pretty much bringing power back to the people.
Well, that's what I've been taught to be done. That's what Malcolm Garvey been teaching us to do. That's what our societies before colonializations were.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because I was sitting there the other day explaining to somebody that you guys are idiots. And I'll tell you why you guys are idiots. No, I'll tell you straight, bro. Not you, but them.
So who are you talking to?
No, them. Because they just go, you know, there are certain people that basically get told, do this, do that, and they do everything. Yeah? But then there are certain people that are being told, do this, do that, and the middle finger goes up and goes, screw you, I'll do it my way. And what happens is, like, as time goes on, these people that I'm talking about, the U's, the Fusions, the Johnsies, the Blades, the whoever, what happens is, we're finding our own way. And the less we have, the more we create. And one day, we will get to where we're going to, and somewhere along the line, we're all going to be sat in the same place, celebrating the same rewards that we've been told we can't have.
But you know what? Deeper than that, we're going to be sat in different places, far away, spread out, being able to holler at each other and say, yo, bro, I need some promotion. I'm going to come on your channel. You're going to say, you know what, I need some help with some theatre show ideas. You know what I mean? But the amount of things that Fusion does, John Z's got a school, mate. He's gone from having a theatre company to having a school. You know what I mean? And Fusion has a cultural hub where you can turn up there and incubate ideas. So now, those 4 names you mentioned, we've got theatre, media, education, and creative hub incubation. Because we all said, fuck you, we're doing it our own way. Do you know what I mean? And the more... Fam, for me, it's like, yeah, you know, this idea of, you know, success comes up a lot, right? And what that means to people. And I think one of the things I've really learned is you have to define that for yourself, right? It's in some ways easy to be like, you know, I want to be rich and famous. And, you know, there's a line, there's a pipeline. You got to do what's necessary to go up that pipeline and keep as much of yourself intact as possible, right? If that's what you want. Do you know them ones? But real talk, that's never really been my goal. The goal has been to spread my message. Do you know what I mean? And if I can do that effectively, I'm succeeding. Do you know them ones? You know, to do that, I need to be able to have certain amount of stability and a foundation built. You know what I mean? Like, I don't take that lightly. Do you know what I mean? That I've been able to carve out enough for my family to eat. Do you know what I mean? Like, and to have a roof over our head and all these things. You know them ones. So, but at the same time, that's one factor of being in a position to be able to get my message out there. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was a time when I never would have aspired to work at a university like the RCA. The name in itself, it's got the enemy in the name. Do you know them ones? But you know, since I've been working there, we have battled that place to go from it being, well, 90% of the staff there were on 0-hour contracts. Now everyone's got full contractual rights, right? I'm not saying that's me being there, but the people. I've been part of that fight, right? We went from having a place where it was hostile to be a black student in there, and people like Rock Simone, who's involved in this project, Emily, Izzy, these people have come around, and now there is the Frank Bolin Scholarship, which is for black students. They get their fees paid, and they get money to live off. Do you know what I mean? And that's the creation of us fighting for these things. Do you know what I mean? So if you're going to be in a space, you don't just go into the space and let the space dictate who you are and what you do. You go into them spaces and you improve it for your people. Do you know what I mean? As well as on the outside creating these other spaces. And that's what I Am Hip Hop has always been. That's what Global Faction has always been. People's Army has always been, is these spaces where, you know what, we're saying we don't need the music industry to do what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, if they take, I think one thing you have to really be careful about is if you give too much power to Spotify or to Instagram or to whoever else, they'll just take that and you become dependent on it. People were telling me from morning, you need to get on Spotify, and I didn't put my first album on there. I was like, nah, I'm just gonna do it on there. You know, and in some ways it might have shot me in the foot. I didn't want to put it on Apple either. I was only on the Bandcamp, you know, them ones. And some people will be calling me up like, bro, how can I get your thing on Apple? How can I get your thing on this? And I'm like, bro, they're not there.
It's supply and demand, isn't it? If you starve certain places and they can't get it, and people badly want your thing, they'll come to wherever it is.
Yeah, and you know, yes, it is that. But for me also, I'm like, to me, that's still capitalist logic, do you know, them ones. And to me, it's like, I'm not trying to me, it's not about selling music. Do you know what I mean? And I've always struggled with this idea of selling. And, you know, for someone like, who's a good example? Again, Mortal Technique or a Low Key, people who do what they do, independent, and can outsell these whoever. Do you know, them ones, like, they've got their hustle down, locked down, you know, perfection. But for me, it's like, if rather than demand, to me, it's about what we build. Do you know what I mean? So it's about building foundations for new possibilities, right? And so if you're building something from the ground up, as opposed to aiming to join an already established thing, it's harder work, and it's going to take you longer, and it might be longer than your lifetime. Do you know what I mean? So those people who started, I don't know, what's a good example? Whoever started Warner Music, they ain't about now seeing what Warner Music is doing. Whoever started Universal ain't still around seeing Universal terrorize, you know, the media industry with all the fuckery that they do. Do you know, them ones, like, so what we're building, we're starting fresh things. We might not see the great things it does in the future, but we're playing our role in creating these alternative.
But you know what? I think that's an interesting topic to talk on when you come back to do a proper interview, because I really want to focus on the theatre play.
Yeah.
So, you know, do you want to give a quick summary of what the play is actually about and just basically sell it?
So, to see what it's about, you have to be there. That's just the real. You know, them ones, like, you every time we install it, it's different. Do you know what I mean? So if you even if you've been to one of the previous things, what you're seeing this time will not be the same thing. Do you know what I mean? But what you will get at Earth on October 6th is visual and sonic art that grows out of African Caribbean perspectives and African Caribbean storytelling. So there's an art exhibition. When you enter a space, you enter the universe and enter the world of Drummer Warrior Storyteller. Different mediums, from paint to photography, film, more. There's new work being made that I don't entirely know what it is yet, because the artists are still working on it. Do you know what I'm saying?
How many people are involved?
It's a team of about at least 30, and it's growing because we're getting other people involved to help as well. So it's at least 30, between 30 and 40 people. And then with the performance, we're going to be doing hip hop, dance, theatre. It's, there's many ways you can describe this. Live drumming, African drumming, Caribbean drumming. I'll be performing hip hop, spoken word. We'll have visual effects. We're gonna have a 3D soundscape mix of the show, you know, and all of this is done by people who are top tier in their field.
You are one of the most energetic people that I've seen on stage, and people need to come and see your energy. If they're not coming for anything else, come for the energy. Bit by bit, as time is going on, we're starting to see all the people with substance, you know, because I think some of us are getting fed up of the foolishness.
Bro, substance is one of the key words for me. Do you know what I mean? Because it's, you know, I take the responsibility seriously. Do you know what I mean? And we're dealing with things that are of a higher force. You know what I mean? And so it's about what's happening in our physical lives, but we're dealing with the spiritual here. Do you know what I mean? And so the way that we honor our ancestors, the way that we honor the Most High, the way that we call on giving reverence to the people who've come before us, who've died for us to be here. Do you know what I mean? Who've suffered and struggled, who've created and given birth to civilizations, to the Orisha, to the Most High, to all of the spirits and who play a part of this. We're honoring them, and by honoring us, we're honoring them. Do you know what I mean? And so, you know, substance is important. The spirit, I think, is even more important, and therefore we don't play around with that. Do you know what I mean? We do things, and I'm learning. You know, you said about how did I learn to do this? This whole process is a learning process for me, to learn how to do this, to reconnect my roots and see how deep those roots go.
Most people that I speak to, what they're looking for is some kind of validation. 99% of those people that are looking for validation, their validation is on an ego thing. Yeah, there's that 1% that does it for all the right reasons. And I feel like that time will come when you'll be able to separate the boys from the men. You know what I'm saying? You can see it now, it's starting.
But I think for me, there's always been them people, bro, always. And in many, many different fields, you know, and for me, you don't always get to know who them people are. Do you know them ones? Because again, if you're not on an ego thing, you might not be as good at selling. You might not feel the need to sell yourself. You might not be the need to. and so one thing I've been really, really big on, I say it quite a lot. There's a line in one of the tracks where I say, I list a bunch of our heroes who've been murdered, and then I say, but it's not just the famous. Those are the ones we know. But who threw that first stone? Who broke that first bone? When they came to our communities, who stood up and said no? Who refused to row? Who refused to sow seeds in cocoa fields and the propaganda? Refused to let them grow. And for every Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Patrice Lumumba, these heroes that we know who get assassinated in the line of creating new worlds for our people, there's all of the millions of nameless heroes who get shot in the face on the front line. Them ones who in all those thousands of people murdered in Palestine, we won't know all of their names. We won't know them. All those people in the Congo since 1996 have been murdered so that we can have these iPhones in the world. Do you know what I mean? We won't know who they are. But when the victory comes and Babylon burns and the new possibilities rise and can take stand, when there ain't going to be someone coming and assassinating our most prominent leaders, it's those people who made that happen. We might sing the praises and write songs about the Mandelas and the Thomas Sankaras, the Morris Bishops, but every single person who played their role, that's the substance.
I also feel like part of the problem with the way the system is run is that they're not trying to necessarily assassinate the people, but they're trying to assassinate the art that's going to get the message to the people.
This too. Well, it's the same process, no? And that's the thing.
That's why you're getting so much of the negativity in music these days, because all the record companies are obviously funding that. You know the story, bro.
And they're all owned by one record label.
Everything.
You get me? Universal own everything. You know what I mean? And I've seen interviews when there's and this again, we talk about conspiracy theories, bro. I've seen the man say it out of his own mouth in an interview, because he doesn't get interviewed about music. He gets interviewed about business. You know them ones, because his mission is business. It's not about message, music, culture, nothing. Do you know them ones? And they were like,
are you talking about Lucian?
Nah, but bigger than him, the owner of Universal. Do you know them ones, yeah? And they were like, oh, gangster rap. And they didn't even ask him that question. They asked him something else. Do you know them ones? And he was like, yeah, we realized that they were doing great, so we basically bought them all. Do you know them ones? And this is the future. His business mind is thinking, this is the future, let's buy it all. You know what I mean? Because there's all these independent record labels that were doing their thing. They were all under this thing, under this umbrella. Do you know what I mean? And so when you hear people like Styles P talking about, yeah, I had this track about revolution and they said I can't put it on my album. This is filtered down because the business model of that giant conglomerate, you're fucking with that if you're saying don't buy things. Do you know them ones like? And so all these conspiracy theories, you know that one going around about, oh, there was the meeting, they all sat down and they had this meeting about, let's kill off the black people. Whether that meeting took place or not, whether there was a one specific meeting where everyone sat down, you haven't got to have any conjecture about what that thing is and what that thing isn't, because the man done said it out of his own mouth. We bought these things up to make them what we want them to be, and what they want it to be is whatever sells, regardless, because it's always the same thing. The bottom line, the profit and the power is all that's important.
I think that's a really good place to end it. And let me explain why. Right? Because you can see your energy, you can see the emotion, you can see the passion, the substance, and everything in it. And if that's what you want to be catching, then make sure you go and check out his play that's there, the theatre play. Do you want to just give it one more final push? And if there's any other final words you want to say?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's that. Drummer, warrior, storyteller, Earth, Hackney, October 6th. We'll see you there.
Thanks a lot, Apex.
Salute, man. Love.
All right, man. Peace, bro.